Alright guys, when I think of Total War Attila, I think of spreading holy hellfire across the campaign map as Attila the Hun, or preventing the steady collapse of my dear Roman empires. The game's entire tone was built around decline, the Western Roman Empire crumbling, barbarian hordes on the march, and a world where survival felt temporary. For the wider Total War community though, Attila has always carried a strange tension. Beneath the atmosphere of doom lay some of the series' most ambitious mechanics, systems for climate, fertility, sanitation, and population that gave the campaign a depth few Total War titles have ever matched. At the same time though, the game struggled with performance issues, uneven AI, and a presentation that never quite fulfilled its promise. For many players, including myself, it simply became a title remembered more for what it could have been than for what it ended up being. That's where mods like Nova Attila, the one I'm going to be talking about today, come in. Built by the same modder behind the impressive Nova Roma project, this one is designed to overhaul Attila's look, feel, and mechanics, making it more immersive, more beautiful, and more strategically demanding. In this video, I'm going to take you through everything that Nova Attila does for the game, and by the end, I guarantee you're going to want to check it out for yourself. Now, before we dive straight in, if you're looking at all of this and you don't own Total War Attila or its DLCs, you can pick them up right now with a massive 89% off discount on Instant Gaming. They also have a lot more games on sale right now, like Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition, which I love by the way, or even the entire Total War catalog. So if you're thinking about buying a new game, or if you really want to buy Total War Attila to try Nova Attila out, make sure to click the link below to get your games for cheap and support the channel at the same time. Now let's dive straight in. The first thing that stands out when loading into Nova Attila is the campaign map's look and feel. Water has been reworked to appear more realistic, with seas and rivers that reflect light more naturally and look far more convincing when zoomed in. Cities have been renovated as well, both Roman and barbarian. Where vanilla Attila sometimes made settlements feel flat or indistinct, Nova Attila gives them texture and extreme presence. Roman cities in particular feel monumental, with a scale and detail you would expect from late imperial centers. Barbarian settlements also receive attention, looking more rugged and true to their cultural background, and all of this helps to distinguish the empire visually from its neighbors. Combined with updated faction emblems, new fonts, improved event pictures, and even something as subtle as a main menu update, the entire presentation here is immediately sharper and more immersive. Beyond the visual layer though, the core of this mod is the mechanical changes that reshape how campaigns progress. Build and research times are doubled. On paper, this might sound like a small tweak, but it transforms the pacing of the campaign, and vanilla Attila progression could sometimes feel rushed. New technologies and buildings would unlock quite quickly, leading to situations where you rarely had time to experience the consequences of one development before moving on to the next. In Nova Attila, you are forced to plan further ahead, further and further. Every building slot becomes a long-term commitment. Every choice of technology becomes an investment. The effect is that campaigns feel slower, more deliberate, and ultimately a lot more rewarding. Other systems reinforce this approach too. Garrisons have been reworked, making cities tougher to conquer outright, which I really like personally. I think that garrisons in vanilla Attila were just not strong enough. Barricades inside sieges are stronger, giving defenders a real chance to hold out even when the odds are against them. Corruption is reduced through new administrative buildings, which ties economic management more tightly to infrastructure. Seasons have been made more meaningful, with harsher effects that reflect the challenges of late antiquity. Fires burn longer, adding to the atmosphere of devastation where cities are razed. All of this and a lot more that I haven't spoken about yet emphasizes the fragility of the empire in Attila's world, while giving players tools to fight back if they plan carefully and further ahead enough. AI behavior has also been refined. On paper, it's now more capable of resettling raised settlements, which makes the map feel less static. One of vanilla Attila's oddities was how much empty space could appear after a wave of destruction, and in Nova Attila, factions are more active in reclaiming and rebuilding, which helps campaigns feel dynamic rather than hollow. Recruitment is smarter as well, with better army compositions that make opponents more threatening. Diplomacy is unlocked for all factions except the Huns, meaning meaning you have more flexibility in managing alliances, trade, and political maneuvering. And trade itself is worth highlighting here as well. Nova Attila increases trade value and adds more trade ships and carts to the campaign layer, making commerce feel like a central part of empire management. Resources are also rebalanced to be more meaningful. Instead of being generic, each provides unique bonuses, encouraging players to think carefully about which regions to conquer or protect. And this ties into the new colonization and regional settlement mechanic here as well, which gives more depth to expansion. And just to be clear, the AI also interacts with these systems, colonizing and resettling in ways that keep the world evolving. Now, one of the more subtler but impactful aspects of the mod is the addition of dynamic faction names. As your empire grows or contracts, your faction name changes to reflect its scale. It's a small touch, but it reinforces immersion here, reminding you that your political identity is shifting over time. Another detail is the inclusion of the Ultimate Fixes package here in Attila, which resolves many long-standing issues in the game, paired with the modder's own start pause file that introduces new starting positions for select factions. Together, these ensure that campaigns are smoother, less buggy, and more interesting from the very first turn. In my own time with the campaign, I tested the Eastern Roman Empire, the Sassanid Empire, and the Ostrogoths. As you can see here, the Eastern Romans felt alive in a way it rarely does in vanilla. Constantinople looks more imposing, cities carried greater weight, and the balance between long research and administrative reforms kept me cautious about over-expansion. The Sassanids benefited from the increased trade values, of course, while the Ostrogoths were fun to play with under the resettlement changes. The biggest impression, though, came from the aesthetics. Faction leaders, generals, and cities simply look better. They feel grounded in history, less cartoonish, and far more consistent in tone. If there is one area I just want a little bit more out of the mod from, it's gotta be map density. Compared to Nova Roma, which added smaller towns and details that filled the landscape, Nova Attila still feels a little bit sparse in places. The foundations are excellent, don't get me wrong, but I miss the same dramatic sense of transformation that Nova Roma delivered to Rome 2. Having said that, this is still a work in progress, so it's entirely possible those layers will come in time. Over on the battle side of things, we do have the same philosophy as the campaign. Polish what exists, rebalance where needed, and enhance immersion without throwing away the identity of the game. The most obvious improvement, of course, comes in visuals. Units have been fully reskinned, new uniforms, recolored faction palettes, brighter textures for weapons, crossbows, and ships, and the result is that armies look more consistent and less visually tiring. Vanilla Attila often leaned towards darker, muddier tones that made units blur together a little bit, especially in long engagements, but Nova Attila sharpens this a lot, keeping colors grounded in historical realism, but clear enough to distinguish on the battlefield. Leaders and generals also benefit from this rework, their assets looking sharper and more imposing, which ties in nicely with the improved campaign visuals. Animations have also been adjusted to improve the flow of combat. Engagement feels smoother with fewer awkward or repetitive movements or animations breaking immersion. Blood and gore effects are included by default, but with the performance optimizations that allow battles to run more cleanly. For players with weaker PCs, the mod also includes the Performance Maker mod, meaning we have a lot more optimization here than before, and given Attila's reputation for being one of the heavier Total War games to run, this kind of support is super valuable. AI behavior has seen some meaningful refinements. In siege battles, for example, the AI is more capable of attacking walled cities effectively. It was really not good in Vanilla Attila, but here I can say honestly it does do a much better job. It uses siege equipment more competently, it presses attacks with greater consistency, and it is better at coordinating multiple entry points. This makes defending settlements a lot tenser and more satisfying in the game. The improvements here extend to open battles as well, where the AI's recruitment changes carry through into compositions you face. Armies feel more balanced with fewer filler units and more emphasis on formations that can actually pressure the player. Siege battles, of course, also benefit from the campaign side changes to garrisons and barricades. Cities are more defensible, and the AI seems more willing to commit to sieges rather than abandon them. Combined with more visual updates here, siege battles become some of the strongest moments in Nova Attila. The immersion of fighting in a Roman city that truly looks Roman cannot be understated, and it adds a great detail to the atmosphere of late antiquity. Weather and lighting have been given particular attention. Variations across time of day and climates add much needed diversity to the look of battles. Contrast has been adjusted so that shadows and highlights are more natural, and the result is a clearer, sharper battlefield. The combination of updated textures and lighting makes Attila look more modern, and battles are more enjoyable to watch and record. From all of my testing with the battles, they're undeniably more enjoyable from a gameplay perspective and from a visual perspective as well. The reskinned units were easier to distinguish, the lighting made the environments feel richer, the improved animations gave combat a less mechanical feel, the AI was still aggressive as in vanilla Attila, but the recruitment and siege tweaks helped encounters feel more structured. I wouldn't say the difference was as striking as in Nova Roma, where the changes to presentation hit immediately, but the refinements here are consistent and noticeable the longer you play. The only area where I would say there's a bit of room for improvement, and like I said, all of this is a work in progress, is unit presentation. Additional units including heavy troops and foederati for the Western Romans add useful variety, but the unit cards haven't been reworked to match the new aesthetic. This creates a slight mismatch between how armies look on the field and how they appear in the UI, and it doesn't break the experience, but unifying this visual layer would push the mod closer to the polish of a full overhaul. Essentially, battles in Nova Attila are less about reinventing Attila's combat and more about making it smoother, clearer, and more immersive. The AI fights with greater coherence, the cities look more authentic, the units are visually balanced, and the performance optimizations make longer campaigns more viable. For players who enjoy Attila's core combat but want a more refined version, these changes hit the right balance. Overall, Nova Attila takes a game about collapse and gives it a bit more stability and fun. It improves visuals, rebalances mechanics, extends pacing, and tweaks AI in ways that make campaigns and battles more engaging. It doesn't yet feel as transformative as Nova Roma, and there are places where expansion would elevate it further, like adding more settlements or reworking the unit cards, but as a foundation, it makes Attila well worth returning to. For players who love the themes of Attila but drifted away due to performance issues, visual fatigue, or repetitive campaigns, Nova Attila is a welcome refresh. It's still growing, it's still in progress, but even now it provides a cleaner, more immersive, and more strategically rewarding experience. If you want to revisit late antiquity to see Rome in its true grandeur, or watch barbarian cities rise in richer detail, then Nova Attila is a mod worth trying out. And that's essentially it for today, guys. Nova Attila is a very interesting new mod on Attila, like relatively new, that I've been trying out for the last few weeks. I think it's been worth making a video for. There's a lot of great changes here worth trying out, and ultimately, it's basically a better version of vanilla Attila. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, give it a like, drop any thoughts or questions in the comments section below, and let me know what you think about Nova Attila. Subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.